When you get old, your world becomes very small. Your house becomes a room. Your big adventures become small walks in the garden. And the people you love, sometimes they forget you. You become a memory in their busy lives. They do not mean to forget you. They are just busy with the future, and you are a part of the past. This is a story about a day when my long-forgotten past came back to me in a very surprising way. I would like to ask you, what is your most precious memory of a person you have lost? Please share a happy story in the comments. My name is Eleanor, and I am 85 years old. My home is a room in the Sunny Pines nursing home. It is a clean, safe place. The nurses are kind. But it is not my home. My home was a small house with a big garden, a house I shared with my husband for 50 years. But he is gone now, and my children, my wonderful, successful son and daughter, they are very busy. They have their own children, their own important jobs in the big city. They moved me here 2 years ago. They said it was for the best. They call me every Sunday. The calls are always short. Hi, Mom, how are you? Is everything okay? Great. We are so busy. We will try to visit soon. But soon never comes. I know they love me, but I feel like I am an old book on a shelf, a book they have already read. My days are all the same. I wake up. I have breakfast. I sit in my chair by the window and I watch the world. My only real companions are my memories. And my best memories are of my father. He was not a rich or important man. He was a gardener. He smelled of the earth and the sun. He taught me the names of all the flowers. He was a quiet, patient, and very wise man. He was the only person in the world who, I felt, truly understood my quiet heart. He died a long, long time ago, when I was just a young woman. I miss him every day. My story begins on a normal, quiet Tuesday. It was a gray, rainy day. I was in my room, looking at the rain on the window, thinking about my father's garden. One of the young nurses came into my room. She had a bright, surprised smile on her face. "Eleanor," she said, "you have a visitor." I was so surprised. A visitor? On a Tuesday? My heart gave a hopeful little jump. Was it my son? My daughter? Had they finally come to see me? But the man who walked into my room was a stranger. He was a young, serious-looking man in a dark, expensive suit. He was carrying a leather briefcase. "Mrs. Eleanor Vance?" he asked, his voice polite and professional. I nodded, confused. "My name is Mr. Davies," he said. "I am a lawyer." A lawyer? I was even more confused. I did not have any money. I did not have any legal problems. "I am from the law firm of Gable, Henderson, and Davies," he said. "I am here today about the last will and testament of your father, Mr. James Miller." I just stared at him. The words did not make any sense. "My father," I said, my voice a weak, old whisper. "But my father passed away more than 50 years ago, and he was a gardener, a poor man. He did not have a will. He had nothing to leave." The young lawyer gave me a small, kind smile. "That is what everyone believed, Mrs. Vance," he said. "But your father was a very patient and a very clever man. A long time ago, he came to our firm. He gave us a will, and he gave us very specific instructions. He said that this will was not to be opened or read until today, October 15th, 2025. He left something for you, and it has been waiting for you for a very, very long time." I just sat there, in my small, quiet room, my heart pounding. A message, a secret, from my father. After 50 years of silence, I just sat there, in my old armchair, completely speechless. My heart was beating faster than it had in 20 years. A secret will? From my father? The young lawyer, Mr. Davies, saw the shock on my face. He gave me a kind smile. He opened his leather briefcase and took out a very old, yellowed envelope. The seal on the back was made of dark red wax. "Your father was a very specific man, the lawyer said. "He left a letter for you. He said I must read it to you first, before the will itself." He carefully opened the old envelope and took out a letter. The paper was thin, and the handwriting was my father's, so familiar and so loved. The lawyer began to read. "My dearest Eleanor," the letter began, "if you are reading this, then I have been gone for a very long time, and you are not a young woman anymore. I hope you have had a happy life, a life full of simple joys, a loving husband, and wonderful children. I am writing this to tell you a secret that I have kept my whole life." The lawyer continued to read my father's words. He told me that he was not just a simple gardener. That was his job, his passion. But he had another, secret passion: the stock market. He was a quiet, secret, and very successful investor. He had started with a very small amount of money when he was a young man, and slowly, patiently, over 40 years, he had grown it into a very large fortune. "I kept this a secret from everyone, even you, my dear," he wrote, "because I have seen that money can be a poison. It can make good people lazy. It can make families greedy. I did not want that for you. I wanted you to learn the value of hard work. I wanted you to marry for love, not for money. I wanted you to raise your children with good, simple values. I wanted you to have a real life, not a rich one. I have trusted my lawyers to keep this secret and to let my small fortune grow for 50 years. I knew that by now, your life would be your own. Your character would be strong. The money could not change the good person you are." My eyes were full of tears. I was not crying from sadness. I was crying from a deep, overwhelming love. My wonderful, wise father. He had been watching over me, protecting me, my whole life, and for 50 years after. The lawyer then picked up the official will. "Now, for the will itself," he said. It was very short. It said that the entire fortune of James Miller, which had been managed by a private trust for 50 years, was to be given, in its entirety, to his only daughter, Eleanor Vance. The lawyer then showed me the final number on a piece of paper. The number was so big, it did not feel real. It had so many zeros. I was a millionaire. Many, many times over. I, the forgotten old woman in the nursing home, was now one of the richest women in the country. There was one last line in the will, a final personal instruction from my father. The lawyer read it, his voice soft. "With this money, I ask my daughter to do one thing first. Please, my dear flower, buy yourself the most beautiful garden in the world, and be happy. Your loving father, James." After the lawyer left, I was alone again in my small, quiet room. But everything was different. The gray, rainy day outside did not seem so gray anymore. I was holding my father's letter. I was a rich woman. But the money was not the real gift. The real gift was this letter. The knowledge that my father had loved me so much, that he had trusted me, that he had been proud of me. I looked out the window, a new, bright light in my old eyes. I thought about my 2 busy, successful children who never had time to visit their poor, old mother. And for the first time in a very long time, a real, mischievous, and very powerful smile spread across my face. My father's letter was a key that unlocked a new world for me. I was not a weak, lonely, old woman anymore. I was the daughter of a secret genius, and I had a fortune to manage. The very next day, I called the lawyer, Mr. Davies. My voice was not the weak, trembling voice of an old lady. It was the clear, confident voice of a woman who knew what she wanted. "Mr. Davies," I said, "my father asked me to buy a garden. I would like you to find me the most beautiful one in the country, and I would like to move in next week." And he did. 1 week later, I said goodbye to the sad gray walls of the Sunny Pines nursing home. A private car took me to my new home. It was a beautiful old stone house, not too big, but full of light and warmth. and it was surrounded by acres of the most magnificent gardens I had ever seen. There were rose gardens, and a vegetable garden, and a beautiful, quiet wood full of old trees. It was my father's final gift. It was my new beginning. I hired a small, kind staff to help me. For the first time in years, I was the mistress of my own home. I would spend my days walking in the gardens, feeling the sun on my face. I was happy, but I knew there was one more piece of business I had to do. I asked my assistant to call my children, my son John and my daughter Sarah. I invited them to my new home for lunch. They arrived on a Sunday, in their big, expensive cars. They were so surprised. They were confused. "Mother," my son John said, looking at the beautiful house. "What is all this? How did you afford this? Did you sell your old house?" I just smiled and told them to come inside. We sat in my new sunny living room, a room that looked out over the endless flowers. And then I told them the story. I told them about their grandfather, the secret investor, and I told them about the will and the fortune that was now mine. Their faces were a picture of pure, absolute shock. But after the shock, a new, excited light came into their eyes. They were not seeing their old, forgotten mother anymore. They were seeing a very, very rich woman. "Mother, this is incredible," my son, a businessman, said. "We have to invest this money. We can double it in 5 years." My daughter started to talk about all the things we could buy, the trips we could take. They were so full of plans, my plans, for my money. I let them talk for a few minutes. I listened to their loud, greedy excitement, and my heart was a little sad. My father was right. Money could be a poison, so I did what my father would have wanted. I held up my hand. The room went quiet. "John." "Sarah," I said, and my voice was quiet, but it was full of a new power they had never heard from me before. "For 2 years, I sat in a small room, and I waited for you to visit. I waited for a phone call that was longer than 2 minutes. You were always too busy. Too busy with your important jobs, your important lives." I looked at their surprised faces. "But now, I am a rich woman, and suddenly you have all the time in the world for me. Suddenly you have so many plans for my life." I shook my head. "My father was afraid of this. So this is how it will be. This is my money and my life. You have your own successful lives. I will not give you big sums of money, but I will offer you something much more valuable. I will offer you my time." They were speechless. "If you want to be in my life," I said, "you will come here. You will come to my house every Sunday for dinner, not to talk about business or investments, to talk as a family. You will bring my grandchildren to play in this beautiful garden. You will not visit a rich woman. You will visit your mother. That is my condition. That is my price." I sat back in my chair. I had spoken my truth, and for the first time, I was the one with all the power. My children were completely silent. They looked at me, then at each other. They were businessmen, and they had just been given a business proposal. The product was a relationship with their mother, and the price was their time. For a long moment, I did not know what they would choose. Then, my son John gave a slow nod. "Okay, Mom," he said, his voice quiet. "Okay. We will be here on Sunday." The first few Sunday dinners were a little awkward. My children were there, but their minds were still on their busy lives. They would check their phones. They would talk about work. But I was patient. My father had been patient for 50 years, so I could be patient for a few weeks. I did not talk about money. I just cooked for them, the simple, delicious meals I used to make when they were children. I asked them about their lives, and I told them stories about their grandfather, the wise and secret gardener. And slowly, a miracle began to happen. My grandchildren were the first to change. They loved the big, beautiful garden. They loved their great-grandmother's stories. They were the ones who were so excited to come every Sunday. And because of them, my own children started to change too. They saw how happy their own kids were, running in the garden, listening to my stories. They started to leave their phones in the car. They started to relax. They started to remember what it was like to be a family, not just a business. They started to see me again, not as an old, forgotten problem, but as their mother. That was 5 years ago. Today, my beautiful house is a real home. It is a home that is filled every Sunday with the loud, happy, chaotic sounds of my family. My son and I work in the garden together, just like I used to do with my father. My daughter and I have become real friends again. We talk about everything. My children are not here for my money. They are here for me. My father's secret will was the greatest gift of my life, not because of the money, but because it gave me a second chance. It gave me the power to rebuild my family, to bring my children back to me. My father, in his wise and patient way, knew the true value of things. He knew that time is more precious than money, and that a family's love is the most valuable inheritance of all. I was left alone in a nursing home, a forgotten old woman. But now, my life is so full. I have my father's garden, and my heart is in full bloom. If this story about family and second chances warmed your heart, please give this video a like. What is the most important lesson you have learned from your parents or grandparents? Share the wisdom in the comments. For more emotional English stories about the true meaning of family, please be sure to follow our channel.